All right, so like I was saying earlier, I was supposed to do this presentation with my son, but I don't want to say he chickened out, but he had higher priorities. So this is going to challenge me because I was sitting up here and part of the technical difficulty was finding the presentation. And so in great presentation order, this is the only slide you will see tonight. So this is Holiday Light Fight Exposed. My son and I started doing electronics when he was around 10. We did Lego League for a number of years, and we bought him along the way some kits called snap circuits. Anybody ever heard of snap circuits? Anybody own snap circuits and using them with your kids at all? Okay, phenomenal tool. Basically, you know, if you've done electronics before, you know there's like soldering, and how many of you are good solderers? Okay, I'm putting my hand down because I'm like really bad. I'm always like burning my finger or something. But snap circuits are great because what somebody has done is they've taken the wires and they've taken the resistors and the transistors and they've pre-soldered them to snaps. And then they encased it in plastic and you're all set to go. So to build out a circuit, you just snap the little pieces together and you build out a circuit. So that's how my son got started with doing electronics, and he built a radio and he built a remote control car and he built all these things, and I didn't really realize that he got it until we were doing a project with a robot. So we had gone to the Goodwill and we bought a Robo-Sapien robot. By the way, the Goodwill is, or the thrift store in general, great place to go and find cheap electronics, because when you lose the remote control, you throw the car away, right? You got motors, you got controller boards, you got all kinds of stuff that just continues to work. So we went in, we bought a Robo-Sapien thinking, oh, we'll just take the motors out of this thing and have a great little robot, or a great little set of controllers. And lo and behold, my son decides he's going to rip the controller out, and he started probing around with some batteries and stuff, figured out how to make the arms move, and ultimately plugged it into an Arduino and made the Arduino move the robot. Okay, this is kind of cool. You know, he's got this. The problem was we could only make the arms go one direction, because when he could make it go the other direction, but he had to pull the wires out and switch them. We didn't know how to like get past that. So we went to my father-in-law, who he was my electronics champion, right? Anytime I had a question, I would go see him. I have to find somebody else now, so if anybody wants to help me out. He passed away this last March of cancer, but he was kind of our go-to guy on how to do all these electronics. And so we went to him, we talked to him, and he drew this little diagram with 4 transistors in it, and you know, he had wires coming in one way and wires coming out the other way. And he explained to us, this is how you control the motor going opposite directions. So my son took that diagram and he went home with it, and he comes down a couple of hours later and he's got that entire circuit built out of his snap circuits. And we plugged it in, and sure enough, it worked. Then we got a book and we did a little bit of reading and found out that was called an H-bridge. Anybody heard of an H-bridge? Okay, so an H-bridge solves all your problems when you're doing things like that. You know, and that was one of the things I meant to have up on the screen as one of the first things I was going to talk about here was Amazon, good old Amazon, right? There's this phenomenal book called Make Electronics. Super simple book. Starts off with, you know, touching a 9-volt battery to your tongue to like feel electricity, to melting some stuff with the battery because you have too much voltage going through, all the way up through talking about H-bridges and how they control motors and directions and speed and all these kind of things. So this is kind of a resource that this is kind of our go-to resource. But so my son and I built this robot. We took that Robo-Sapien, we went a little bit farther with it, and at CodeMash, we decided to take that robot and connect it up with the Connect controller for an Xbox. And so we made it so that whatever motions you did in front of the Connect, it would copy with the robot. So, okay, that was cool that year. Next year, okay, how are we going to plus that? Right? So every year we get into this, how are we going to plus that? Well, this year we're not going to plus it. We're just going to repeat our holiday light fight. But last year, he's like, Dad, this holiday light fight stuff that's on television, we can do that. So he challenged me to find some stuff, and we built out a couple of circuits and tested this. And so the first thing, what we're going to do, we're going to kind of walk through what that looks like for you guys. And so the first question I want to know, how many of you have ever done any like Arduino stuff at all? Okay, so at least like a blinky light, right? Super simple blinky light. You plug the LED in, and you just write the code to do that. So we're going to start there. Okay, so we're going to come over here to Arduino, and this is so hard to do that we're just going to come in and say File, Examples, Basics, Blink. All right. Why does it have to be in a non-bold font, right? All right. Well, we'll just do this. So there's all of the code that you need, right? We have two methods that we ever deal with on an Arduino. You set it up, and then you loop through and do stuff again and again and again and again, right? So in this case, we set up a pin number 13. We say that's an output pin. And then we say digital write that pin high, and then digital write that pin low. And we're basically sending electricity and not sending electricity, right? So super simple. All we do with that then is we come up here to our Arduino tool. We plug our Arduino in USB. And if all goes well, down here at the bottom, you see the little green bar going. And it says it's done. And so you can't see it there, so we will switch over here to my camera. And right there on the board, you can see, oh, I'm blocking the screen. Okay, I'm going to stand over here. All right, which works better. You see right down here on the board, that's the little 13-pin blinking. It's going on and off. Okay, it'd be cooler if I put like an LED on the board. Apparently it didn't make it into the box tonight. But the next piece of that was to say, well, how do we control more electricity, right? It's the Tim Taylor syndrome. Anybody familiar with Tim Taylor, or did I just date myself? Okay, good, I didn't date myself too much. So the Tim Taylor syndrome, we need more power, right? So in order to do more power, the Arduino is limited to 5 volts. If we send anything more through that, we're going to melt the board. So we avail ourselves of a handy-dandy little relay. Now this relay is rated for 110 volts, 10 amps, and so we're good, right? We can run 10 amps of power through this guy, 110 volts. So I've got a whole bunch of them down here on the floor we'll look at in a second. But I'm not going to make any change to code. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and plug this in to my running Arduino, right? I've got one that's going to go into the positive voltage, right? So that's going to go into my 5 volt. I got one that's going to complete the circuit that's going to go to my ground. And so right now I've got some voltage going to it. But all I'm going to do is plug this guy into pin number 13. Pin number 13. Oh, I did plug it into pin number 13. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so you see I essentially have my blinking LED, but it's going on my relay. Okay, so messing with relays is no different than messing with LEDs, right? Super simple code. I'm just flipping the bit for an LED, right? So with that in mind, then we said, well, let's take this a little bit further and let's get a bigger board, right? So out comes the bigger board. Let me unplug it for a second. Not that I'm afraid I'm going to electrocute myself, but just it's too much to pick up. So what I've got here is I've got an Arduino, and it's plugged in with all of my pins, and then I've got this guy, where did he go? He's probably still right there. And he is one of these boards, right? So it's this 8-channel relay. And so this 8-channel relay gives me 8 relays that I can mess with. And I just turn them on and off in sequence, and we're good to go. And then, so I got an extension cord that we kind of chopped up and spliced together and did all that kind of stuff. Not UL certified or anything like that. I'd say don't try this at home, but you won't kill yourself. I do need to add one thing to it, which is like a, what are those things? A fuse, right? So that if it does go south, we'll be good. All right, so what I'm going to do is, what did I say that was funny? Okay, so I'm going to plug this in. You'll probably see some stuff dance around here in the back. I'm not sure. I'm kind of hoping it does. All right. So it's running. Normally I have a little routine that just kind of runs through a bunch of stuff, but we decided that we wanted to go, more power and do some stuff. So for the holiday light fight, we went out, we found this really cool open source application called Vixen, written in C#, and you can download it. And when you run this, I have to have it plugged in before I run, otherwise things kind of blow up. It doesn't know how to talk. Well, it doesn't blow up literally like, sparks go shooting. It just doesn't connect. All right. So yep, everything looks good down there. Okay, so what we do is we come in and we do this setup display. And we put in all of our different lighting elements that we want to have. And you can have hundreds and hundreds if you wanted to. We're going to just deal with 8. Then I have controllers. And so I can add common controllers that are out there. So I can go out and purchase really expensive controllers and stuff like that. In this case, I'm just going to use a generic serial, and I'm sending it across USB. All right? So then I set up all the different channels that guy is going to have, and then super simple. If I highlight all these guys and I highlight all these guys, I get a nice graphic display that says this light element is connected to this channel on the Arduino. So I can hook up lots of lights and cool stuff like that. So this is the patching piece that you do, right, to wire the things up. Then you can take those wire pieces and you can connect them up visually. And so let me actually configure that preview so you can kind of see. So you get kind of a what you see is what you get kind of thing. You can drag different elements on. You can draw your stars. So I have my star at the top and my different lines down. And I end up just dragging these guys over, and you can see how everything is connected. And it's kind of hard to see, but it's changing colors on the stripes. So no real difficult challenge there to get those set up. And the cool thing is you could even put like a background image of your house, so you can kind of lay out the images. You can do all this in the summer without having anything set up. You can test it out, make sure everything's up and running. And then the cool piece is to start, once you've got your preview done, you start building up your sequence. So you load in an MP3 file, and I've got a bunch of dead space here. But you load up an MP3 file, and you just start coloring in blocks. So you say, I want to set in a color here for alternating color. And I just, well, you know what, I can come back here to the beginning, right? And I just drag in here, and I just draw a little line. And wherever I'm drawing the line, that's where it's actually going to affect the relay for that particular channel. Okay? So we get all those pieces done. And if everything works out well, when you come to the end, hopefully the audio is going to work here. Cue the audio. All right. I got my star on backwards. So every time you see a block there, the lights are coming on, and you can set it up for whatever sequence you want. And then you can string them together. You can put them in orders. There's even a web interface that allows you to go in and change the songs through the internet. So you can be sitting out in your car and log into your browser and change the songs that are playing. So a little FM modulator plugged out into your in your front yard. You can broadcast audio to people that drive by. Maybe leave a donation box or something. You got it set. All right. That's all I've got. If you want to take a look at the setup, I'll have it set out around dinner time. You can come take a look at it.